Welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I'm your host, Dennis Balkus, and today we are doing Orville, Season 2, Episode 2, Primal Urges. And, man, again, for me, not the greatest episode. I don't know what's going on, but this is reminding me of the first couple episodes of season 1, where it's kind of like they're trying to find their footing, and they were trying out the comedy and the drama, and neither one was working. And honestly, I don't know where they're going with this, but again, this is another Bortus episode. And before I start this thing, I'm just going to say, spoiler alert, I am going to be spoiling the crap out of this. If you haven't watched the episode, go and watch the episode. Then you can come back, watch the video, and you can comment on the video here as well. So, I know a lot of people are liking this and they're giving this a pass because it's Seth MacFarlane. It's making me doubt whether or not I want to keep doing reviews of this show. Tell you the truth, I'm going to give it 2 more. And if they're both the same as what's happened in the first 2 episodes here, I'm not going to do these anymore because, quite honestly, I'm all about doing shows that I like, not shows that are just aggravating and kind of annoying, to tell you the truth, and not very good. So we start off with the Orville observing a stellar incineration happening, and Bortus leaving early because he isn't feeling well, and then he lies on the communicator to Clyden that he's actually has to work late, and he ends up going into a simulator to have holosex, simusex, whatever it is, with whatever porn simulation that he has going on. So Bortus comes home late, won't have sex with Clyden. Clyden, wants to have sex with him, and he doesn't. They fight about it the next morning in front of their kid, Topa, who, if I remember correctly, at the end of season 1 was an infant. So it now looks like an 8-year-old, which was just kind of, I'm like, okay, if their physiology, if they grow that fast, what the hell? Because the kid's talking and everything at that point too. And it was just, that was kind of a shocking thing as well. So I'm like, do we jump in time here? What's going on? I thought it was only like, a couple of months later from season 1. So there's that as well. That was just kind of throwing me off. So the crew discovers that on the planet there's a fuel source that could power their ship for a while, and they're going to go down and mine some of it. And so they're setting up plans in order to go down and mine this fuel. So this is the B plot that's going on. Bortus leaves early again because he wants to go have holosex in a dungeon. That's a dungeon fantasy. And returns home late again to an angry Clyden and ends up going to sleep. So he goes into bed. He's laying there, and what happens? Clyden pulls a dagger out and stabs him in the chest. We find out, Dr. Finn operates on him, saves his life, brings him back from the dead. And we find out that Clyden was actually divorcing him, and that's what they do in their culture. This is how they divorce him: is they kill their mate. And he was perfectly within his right, as what Bortus says, and doesn't want him to be in the brig. So Mercer, on the other hand, he's like, shit, we've got to deal with this thing now. So he calls up the union to find out what they want to do, and the union says, you know what? You deal with it. Tell us how it comes out. We'll talk to you later, kind of thing. And again, the writing on this wasn't that great. So you got to bear with me on some of this. And what do he and Kelly decide to do? They decide to have a drink of some whiskey with some cheesy effect, that happens. And granted, I know he's mining a lot of this stuff from Star Trek: The Next Generation. As a matter of fact, I remember this episode very well. It was Barclay who had the the holo simulator addiction, that was going on. And that's what this episode is. This is basically the Barclay episode from Star Trek: The Next Generation. If you're familiar with that, you know where this is all going at this point. So, not very original, and actually kind of boring for the most part. So yeah, I know a lot of people are going to hate me for this, but damn, that's all I'm going to say. This really needs to pick up a lot more than what's going on here, especially after the goodwill that this, this whole show had garnered in season 1. I mean, it took a couple episodes, and they finally got the goodwill going, and then to come up with these 2 episodes in season 2 that start off just really subpar. There is one redeeming quality about this whole episode, and I'll get to it in a moment. So Mercer's basically going to kick Clyden off the ship, because of him stabbing Bortus, and Bortus, pleads for him to stay on, and so does Clyden. He doesn't want to leave his kid, of course, and everything. They said, okay, that's good, but you're going to need to go through couples counseling. And they agree. They're going to go through couples counseling with Dr. Finn. In the meantime, Isaac has found a subterranean, shaft that may or may have not had alien life on it at some point in time. So we have that little B plot still going on. In couples counseling, Dr. Finn, basically has them talk to each other, and then gives them a homework assignment to do something fun, and has Bortus set aside an hour of time, and Bortus agrees, and they leave, and Bortus says, okay, I've got to go back to work. I got to go talk to the captain, and go straight into the holodeck again to some doctor simulation, which doesn't really do it for him. So he ends up going over to Lieutenant Unk, whose species, I guess, is known for porn simulations, like some of the best porn simulations, and asks him to get some porn simulations of lots and lots of mollusks that are up for adventure, if you will. And of course, Lieutenant Unk also wants to sell him some drugs too, but he's like, what? Doesn't understand what that whole thing was all about. Porn and drugs. Yes, this is the level of humor that's trying to be injected in there too, is that porn and drugs go hand in hand, So Isaac discovers that there's actually beings that are living in an underground subterranean area, and they end up contacting them via some shortwave radio, and find out that there's 75 or 70 people down there that are left, 75 people that are left, and they decide to rescue them with the shuttle, that it's going to take 2 trips to pick them up with the shuttle. Which, if they can only fit 30 people, how come it, with my math, 75, 30, and 30, that's 60. That still leaves 15 people on the planet. We'll get to that in a little bit. So, yeah. So, Bortus gets his purloined porn program. Try and say that 10 times fast. Wasn't it 3, Filthy News asks? I'll get to that in a minute, Filthy. Hang on a sec. So Bortus gets his porn from Lieutenant Unk. He pops it into the simulator. It's a rogue program, and he goes in and is having all these guys around him. And of course, who walks in but Clyden? Clyden finds him and gets pissed off at this. In the meantime, Malloy and Lamar are ordering pizza, and they get what looks like poop that comes out of the food simulator. So we know where this is coming from, that the porn program has infected the ship. And I can't believe in the future they don't have something called firewalls or, compartmentalized systems in a ship. Because, computer systems. And all the systems seem to be intertwined in the ship here. So that one lone computer virus can basically screw the entire ship completely. Yeah. It's like they never heard of computer viruses before. And you would think, we've seen it just in the last 10 years. Computer viruses kind of grow exponentially in complexity. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Yes, I know it's a sci-fi show, but at the same time, man, if you're going to be dealing with sci-fi, do just a modicum of research, just a small amount. That's all I'm asking, and put it in there. Otherwise, I'm going to start picking it apart at this point, because I'm not too happy about this at this point in time. So Dr. Finn starts talking to Bortus about porn addiction and asks him if he knows what porn addiction is. And they find out that this all started when Topa had the sex reassignment surgery, and how Bortus despises Clyden for not standing up to the council and the council's decisions. And that's when he basically kind of turned his back on him and started using the porn simulator, or the simu porn, or however you want to call it. And in the meantime, we find out that the access panel to get to the people that are underground is outside, and the ship can't hook up to that. And of course, no human being can stand that radiation except for Bortus and Isaac. Dun, dun, dun. There you go. So Bortus and Isaac are on the ship, on the shuttle going down there, and Isaac wants to know more about porn addiction and is trying to talk to Bortus about it, and Bortus doesn't want to talk about it because he's embarrassed, and Isaac just wants to know what it's like, what it feels like. So Bortus is talking about how it's an urge from deep within, like a baby going for a mother's teat, and how when it emptied out and he feels empty afterwards, like someone had died. It's a very fucking weird monologue that he does, and literally it's one of those things that if I had read this on a script, I would like, dude, you need to cut that out or edit it in some way, because it just sounds weird. And of course Isaac comes back with that it's a good thing that Bortus is in therapy. So yeah, man, it just so anyway, Bortus and Isaac get down to the hatch. The planet is breaking up faster than they thought it was going to, so they can only save 30 people out of 75. So there's 75 people, and the ship can only hold 30, is what they said. And originally they said it's going to take 2 trips to get the 75 people off. Now 2 times 30 is 60, not 75. So it's going to be 3 trips. So they basically left, there you go, 45 people to their deaths, which now this is the saving grace of the episode, because I was kind of surprised they had the balls to do it. They actually leave those 45 people to die on the planet. I was like, holy shit, they're actually going to do that. I was kind of surprised. So in the meantime, the virus, which Isaac supposedly had taken care of, but he didn't completely, is wreaking havoc on the ship. The shields are going down. They're getting sucked into the gravity well of the sun, all that kind of stuff. And Isaac and Bortus, by that time, have gotten the shuttle aboard, along with all the 30 people that they've rescued. Isaac runs to the holo simulator there to take care of the virus. And as they're plummeting towards the sun, and with seconds to spare, miraculously saves the ship. And they zoom out. So Dr. Finn is examining Bortus and says, he'll be okay after 1 or 2 treatments. He didn't absorb that much radiation. He's good. And Mercer comes in along with Kelly, reads him the riot act about, infecting the ship with the virus for his porn addiction, blah, blah, blah. And Bortus says, yeah, I'm going to resign. I want to tender my resignation. And Mercer's like, nope, I'm not accepting it, because you're also like one of the best people I've seen, and you owned up to it. And, gives him all these platitudes, and then says, and you're reinstated. You're back on duty. Okay, you almost killed fucking 300 people aboard the ship. With all the shenanigans that happened with the virus and everything, you probably could have saved all 75 people off that planet as well. So yeah, there's just all kinds of really stupid stuff in this episode that I wasn't cool with. So we end with Bortus telling Clyden that he hates him, but at the same time, he doesn't want to lose him, and everything goes back to normal in the end. And this is all because he saw the prime minister of those 75 people letting her husband and child go while she stayed behind. Honestly, Filthy News, the gay stuff wasn't that big of a deal. They've dealt with this stuff before. Is what I said to that. It's more the heavy-handedness of everything else. I mean, it just was really dumb. this episode. It was like it was written by a clumsy 3-year-old, which, usually 3-year-olds at this point are usually clumsy because they don't have motor skills going on and all that stuff. So that's saying a lot right there. It really needs to step up its game. And I don't know what Seth was thinking when he delivered this script, because I know he wrote this episode, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, I forgot to check the credits on that one. I know he wrote last week's or Sunday's episode. I saw that. He wrote and directed it. That was a horrible, horrible, horrible episode. This one wasn't much better. It was a little bit better, a little tiny bit better, but not by much. So yeah, I'm not fond of this thing. And like I said, 2 more episodes. If they're still like this by the fourth episode, I'm dumping it. I'm done with it. So let me check the chat here and see what we've got going on. Filthy News says just going from bad to worse. Yes, I agree. Fast growth spurt. I don't know, Filthy. That kid, Topa, went from an infant to a talking kid in the span of a couple of months, I guess you could say, because I know they didn't jump forward a couple of years because Kelly and Mercer are still having their, will they, won't they kind of thing. And she said she's only been dating that teacher for a month. So it's only been a month since Ed and her had their little whatever it was. So it's only been a month is what it has since the end of season 1 to the beginning of season 2. So yeah, what the hell? That's all I'm going to say. So what did you guys think? Did you guys like it? I know Filthy didn't like it. Slurmy, what did you think? And Chalupa Chong, welcome Chalupa Chong. That's a great name, by the way. What did you guys think of this stuff? And I'll wait for a second or so. Actually, I'm going to plug some stuff while you guys are typing. If you like what you see here, don't forget to subscribe and like down below here. Also hit the bell, and so you get notifications of when I'm going to do this. I am going to be doing Future Man episode 10 tomorrow night, Friday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I am going to be doing Gotham here in a little bit, probably about 10:45 my time. I've got to go out and walk the dog and everything because she's been very, very patient with me. So I need to walk her before I do that. And Gotham was okay. I mean, honestly, I would rather they have flipped this stuff and had the Orville first and then did Gotham, because yeah, Gotham is its own little train wreck as well, but it's kind of a fun train wreck. So with that said, I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to go and walk my dog, and then I'll be back at 10:45 for the Gotham review. And don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you might wind up in a weird-ass porn simulator on a holodeck. Good night, everybody.